Coming up on Fox 4 Sports Watch, we talk about Cowboys OTAs on both sides of the football and the progress that this team hopes to make as we get ready for Cowboys camp. Also, the Texas Rangers, Joey Gallo fever, what you need to know about the youngster and what kind of slugger he's capable of becoming. And FIFA, the president, is out, and how America may have a bigger role in the soccer world community than you might think. Fox 4 Sports Watch, let's do it.
You're listening to Fox 4 Sports with Edward Egros and Victor Nguyen.
Welcome to another installment of Fox 4 Sports Watch. I am Edward Egros, your neighborhood weekend sportscaster, alongside Victor Nguyen, your neighborhood sports producer.
Hello again, everybody.
It is a busy week, to say the least, with the Cowboys, the Rangers. We've got FIFA talk coming up later. The NBA Finals are upon us. Stanley Cup Final is also upon us. This is a good time to be in the sportscasting world.
Absolutely.
So let's go ahead and get started. Talk a little Cowboys. It is second week of OTAs, organized team activities, and not everybody is going to be around. Rolando McClain is not around. Des Bryant's not around. Greg Hardy was not around on Wednesday because of an illness, but still the guys who are there are trying to do whatever they can just to get that semblance of normalcy back. Let's first start on the defensive side of the ball. One of the things that the Cowboys did in this draft was devote a lot more of their draft picks and a lot more of their attention to this defense. And one of the things that I want to talk about in just a minute is their red zone defense. One of the things that I really feel like may be the biggest glaring weakness of this defense as we head into next season. Sean Lee is back, and I got to watch him at practice on Wednesday, and I got to tell you, his speed is very much back. He wasn't wearing a knee brace. He looked about as fearless as he's ever been, and granted, it's been a long road for him just to get back to this point, but you really feel like that he's coming back into his own, and if he can stay healthy, he can be a real productive asset for these Cowboys. Sean Lee spoke to the media on Wednesday about his return. Let's listen to some of his moments.
It's only hard to watch when you think you can be out there helping your team, in games where, we didn't play as well or we didn't win or where you think you could have made a play. Watching them play the way they did last year was an inspiration for me and just motivated me to work harder in my rehab. As soon as I was injured, kind of knowing that, being excited to start a season with a team and knowing that you're not going to be able to play for an entire year, that was obviously hard. But like I said in the past, there's people dealing with a lot worse. I still had an unbelievable opportunity to play for the Cowboys ahead of me, and that was my focus, where, hey, I'm going to try to stay positive every day, try to work every day, and focus on this unbelievable opportunity I have ahead of me.
Again, that's Sean Lee, Cowboys linebacker, talking about his return to the playing field. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Cowboys' red zone defense is probably the area that I'm going to be most focused on as we get closer to camp. Looking at the numbers, they finished 27th in red zone defense. In other words, when an opposing offense got into the red zone, 61% of the time they scored touchdowns. Now, that's a rather high number. It's obviously more than half, and so it's easy to compute that, once they get within the 20-yard line, they're about to score most of the time, at least a field goal, if not more. And this is all about points. So, to me, that's going to be one of those big factors that you got to look at. And it may be a misleading statistic because two teams that were worse than the Cowboys in that department went on to the playoffs. So, how big of a statistic is that? Well, to me, it's all about points. Reduce the number of points that the other team can get, maximize your opportunities, and then you can win football games.
It is a fairly simple formula here.
Yeah, exactly. Let's not overcomplicate, these analytics here. How do you stop an opposing offense when they're in the red zone? Well, obviously, you want to pass rush. Obviously, you want to push them back. You want to prevent them from, easy throwing lanes, things like that. And I think leadership has a lot to do with that as well. And even though Sean Lee may be moving positions from the middle to the weak side, this is still a guy who knows how to run a defense. And, he's cerebral above anything else. He's a real fighter, but he is cerebral above anything else. And to me, that's going to be one of the more important details moving forward.
Well, do you think that the lack of that voice on the defensive side, on the field, do you think that contributed to the lack of success in the red zone? Because when you're bottled up inside the 20 like that, communication is at more of a premium, you don't think?
It absolutely is. You get burned far more easily in those tiny spaces than you do in big home run kinds of plays. So, communication, absolute premium there. Slight tweak of the body you could lose and the other team scores a touchdown. And so that's where Sean Lee comes in and says, all right, guys, doesn't matter what happened throughout the rest of the drive, we're going to buckle down right now. And I don't know if that voice was really there last year.
And you mentioned the improved pass rush. You mentioned the improved secondary. At this point, we still don't know how much we're going to rely on Greg Hardy. But when you look at Randy Gregory, you look at Byron Jones, how do you think those guys will improve this effort right here?
Well, it's interesting watching OTAs today, seeing Byron Jones basically break up a pass from Tony Romo to Jason Witten, something very few defenders were able to do last year. And if Byron Jones can come in as a rookie and shine like that in a practice situation, that leads me to believe, yes, there's still development that needs to happen with the rookie, but still, what a start. Now, on the other side of the football, on the offensive side, we talk about this offensive line constantly. We know what capabilities they have. We think we know what kind of talent they're bringing in to see how much further they can come along. Lyle Collins is very much the focal point of that. I got a chance to talk to him a little bit on Wednesday about his progress. Let's listen.
Things are going really well, just coming out here every day with a great sense of urgency to come out and get better, work with my teammates, and just try to become, the best player that I can become.
Working out at different positions, saw you at left guard a little bit. How's that coming along?
Oh, it's coming along real good, definitely feels real natural to me. Just being able to do multiple things wherever I can help my team at, that's what I look to do.
What's it like working with a quarterback like Tony Romo?
I mean, he's just a smart guy. I mean, he just sees everything around you that you don't see. He's able to make checks, and he's going the right way with the ball.
Again, that's Lyle Collins, offensive lineman for the Dallas Cowboys, a rookie. He is playing a couple positions, worked a little bit at left guard, worked a little bit at right tackle, but the fact that he's flexible is definitely an asset for a Cowboys offense. They don't like to use the word experiment. In fact, Jason Garrett, almost got a little upset when he heard the word experiment when talking about trying to, move players around and shuffle them to see which position works best for them or what they're capable of doing more accurately. But I'll use the word experiment. It's fine. The fact that they're experimenting with someone like that who is capable of doing a variety of things, I mean, that's just good job security there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And this is really the perfect learning situation for somebody like Collins. He has first-round talent, but he wasn't taken in the first round. He's an undrafted free agent, and he's not walking into a situation where he has to immediately plug a hole. Because Ronald Leary last year had a solid season.
It was fine.
A Zach Martin, who's coming into his own. A Travis Frederick, who is arguably the most intelligent person in that offensive line in terms of communicating and teaching these guys the scheme.
That's why he's at the center position, because of his intelligence, among other things.
Absolutely. So this is a great situation for Collins to be in right now.
Absolutely. I mean, all he needs to do is just sit back, learn as much as he can, and ultimately prove what he's capable of. And he's already doing that in spades up to this point. So a lot to like there, and also given the fact that this offensive line for the most part is healthy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's a huge advantage for these Cowboys. Now, something is probably going to happen throughout the season, and no matter who needs to be plugged where, as long as you can prove that you can do a variety of different things, then there's really nothing to worry about.
Yeah, that's where the depth comes into play.
The worst tends to happen because it's football. All right, we move on now to the Texas Rangers. Joey Gallo, not a bad debut for the youngster.
It was all right.
It was not bad. A really hard hit ball that some may have scored an error in his first at bat, but give them the base hit. He's at home. That's fine. It did take a funky hop when it was hit, so you can make the argument, and that's fine. Then he gets a home run. Also got a walk late in the game, which I thought was very, very important. And Joey Gallo is part of a feverish tone for the fan base within the Texas Rangers. And Joey talked a little bit about what that first day was like and what he hopes to continue doing with the Texas Rangers. And let's listen.
What was that conversation and that hug from your dad like and everything after the game? That had to be one of the better moments you've had in life.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. Obviously, it's kind of work your whole life for that moment right there. So it was pretty special to have that, and for them to be there and have a game like that, it was pretty incredible.
Again, that's new Texas Rangers slugger Joey Gallo talking about his development. Obviously, we know about his power numbers. We know what he's capable of. He can swing a bat very, very hard. He can hit a ball very, very long. We know what he was capable of in the Futures game. We've seen him do a heck of a lot of stuff in Double-A, and we're starting to see him shine in the early going. Obviously, the big concern here is his strikeout percentage. It is quite high. High strikeout percentage in Double-A. Now, it may be something that you would expect from a masher, But I was looking at some statistics where you're getting close to 40%. That's awfully high for anybody at any level, but especially in AA, you want that to go down just a little bit. And part of that is you wonder if, by being a masher, if he's only capable of doing one thing, and that's just swinging for the fences every single time. He knows more than that, obviously. His plate discipline is still quite good. I mean, his walk ratio is pretty solid. Obviously, he got a walk in that first game. So there's a lot to like about his game. At the same time, the glaring weakness is if he has such a high strikeout number, which, as we know in sabermetrics, strikeouts are far more damning than, just getting a ball in play, and then you never know what happens there. But he may not be in the Adam Dunn mold quite yet, but that's the easiest comparison at this point.
It's the most convenient comparison.
I think something, too, with Gallo that's interesting is you've got a couple of power hitters within that lineup. Obviously, Prince Fielder is the one that stands out, but he really hasn't been a power hitter per se this season. He's been batting for a very high average. His home run totals have gone up, obviously, in the month of May, but he's not necessarily what the Rangers purchased. Now, he's still doing a lot of great things. I'm not saying he's underperforming by any stretch of the imagination. He's just a little different. And so now that you've got, this mold of a power hitter, it may be a real, glaring need that may get filled in the short term.
Yeah, there was a real emphasis for Gallo on shortening his swing based on the contact rate, based on the numbers we've seen so far. It looks like he's really applied that in his approach at the plate.
Well, and you look at somebody like a Rougned Odor, who is also a real masher who could do a lot of different things. He had a horrible plate discipline situation.
Yeah, sent back down to AAA, and now he's tearing up again.
Exactly. And so there's something to be said for not rushing somebody up into the major leagues. I mean, a lot of people were wondering, well, why didn't you bring him in last year when, nobody was hitting well? Well, you don't want to bring him into that kind of mess. You want to bring him into a situation where he doesn't necessarily have to overperform. You're not expecting the world from him like you would have last year. And plus, you're bringing him into a mess that, was not going to be successful even if he was hitting a home run in every at-bat. They weren't going to be winning games just because of this, because they were so far down in the cellar. Now the Rangers are in a situation, thanks to a fantastic May, thanks in part to Josh Hamilton, sort of carrying the load like he's supposed to. Now you're in a situation where the Rangers look, right now they're around 500. They could definitely move up, and given just how weak this division is, this is a far better situation to introduce Gallo to.
The beautiful thing about this whole thing is when you look at the way Josh Hamilton was acquired and you look at the way Gallo was acquired, when C.J. Wilson left, that was the draft pick that the Rangers received that they in turn used to get Gallo. And so a lot of the Rangers' success right now, from May going into June, can be directly attributed to Artie Moreno.
Does John Daniels send Artie Moreno a fruit
You gotta.
basket? Some kind of a fruit basket. I don't know what Artie Moreno likes to eat, but maybe some coffee bags.
Sending him a fruit basket a la Mr. Burns to the Simpson family.
Thank you. Nice little signage there. That's good. All right, moving on to someone else who deserves a fruit basket, Sepp Blatter, the FIFA president. I'm just kidding. So Sepp Blatter going to be out as FIFA president. He's still going to be around for a few months before a special election, because they really need a long time to put one of those together.
Exactly.
It was a long time ago when that election happened, so trying to do another one, that's rough. But here's the part that I find very intriguing. Obviously, America has a lot to do with exposing the corruption within the organization, because a lot of American banks, a lot of American pathways were used as far as the corruption, asking for money, taking bribes, things like that for World Cup bids. American banks had a lot to do with that, so therefore the American government comes in and says, hey, look, we know what's going on, we're going to take care of this, and sure enough, they flex their muscle, and now Sepp Blatter is going to be out. Now, the part that I find interesting, I read an article in The Economist kind of breaking down the whole corruption scandal within FIFA, and one of the things that they brought up that was interesting to me was, aside from the fact that America was a possibility for getting the World Cup in 2022. Eventually, it went to Qatar. They have this. There's the real possibility that America can grow the sport of soccer. This is something that has been talked about for decades and decades, and I think recently we're starting to see, a real uptick because now we have this second generation of soccer players who are coming in. Obviously, a lot of kids started playing it. They've grown up. They started phasing out, but now their kids are playing soccer. They have a renewed interest. And so some of this is naturally organic. But the other thing that can make soccer really grow in America is by hosting the biggest event that the sport can provide. And for some reason, FIFA decided to accept bribes and think about that immediate short-term impact of getting money for Qatar to host the 2022 World Cup, as opposed to the longer-term benefits of having America host it and really grow the sport here. And I think this is very important, and perhaps the biggest reason why there needs to be a structural change within FIFA is because I think the rest of the world understands that if America embraces soccer, it's best for everybody. The country is wealthy. There is still a lot of money to be had here. And to ignore that and go anywhere else where soccer is already popular and you're already going to have sellout crowds and stadiums for games, as opposed to going somewhere, fostering it, and then getting new fans to come out, it's a very short-sighted situation. And I really do believe that, once again, this is the United States saying to the rest of the world, look, you have a real opportunity to get us, to make us a part of this. We can make your sport even better if you help us participate. FIFA did not do that. Maybe something will change after this structural upheaval.
I find it hard to wrap my head around the sheer magnitude of the corruption involved with this organization right here. We're not talking about the 1919 Black Sox scandal. We're not talking about point shaving at Boston College. We're talking about the biggest sport arguably in the world. We're talking about the organization that oversees that entire sport. And we're talking about a vast criminal conspiracy. And then that vast criminal conspiracy was directly involved in getting that World Cup to Qatar and not the United States in the first place. And Qatar, of all places, too.
A place that has 240-degree Fahrenheit summers, and thinking it's okay just to have an outdoor sport there without, look, when the Super Bowl went to a cold climate like New York, there were a lot of things that were thought through, considered to make sure this would still be an enjoyable experience. And that's not even near to the extent of the problems that the World Cup could experience in Qatar in 2022. And yet the NFL did a heck of a lot more to make sure this was going to work than FIFA did for this particular event. And they had a long time to figure it out, and there was no real progress either. And that's another example of just the short-sightedness of that organization.
Yeah, and putting aside all this vast corruption, the sheer lack of humanity involved with the folks in FIFA in regards to giving this event to Qatar in the first place. I think I saw a human rights watchdog group mention that up to 5,000 migrant workers will die building the infrastructure necessary, the hotels, the rail lines, the stadiums necessary to host an event like the World Cup. It's just, in all that, in exchange for some pocket cash.
And I don't know about you, but I would be uncomfortable covering an event like that.
Oh, no.
Where so many people had to lose their lives just to do it when you could just as
How can you be a sponsor? How can you be a sponsor?
Exactly.
And, yep.
It's almost blood on your hands. I don't want to sound hyperbolic here, but this is incredible to me. Accidents may happen. You may have one or two deaths in small places here and there.
We're talking about 5,000.
We're talking about 5,000 just because of short-sightedness. And I don't see FIFA coming out and saying we are so incredibly dismayed by these deaths. We're going to honor them. I haven't seen that. Even when Sepp Blatter was interviewed about how these corruption charges came about and how this investigation started to surface around this time, he was blaming America for it. He's saying, well, America lost out in the World Cup. Oh, what a coincidence. Come on. You had an opportunity to grow the sport in the most powerful country in the world. You chose not to just so you can have a few extra bucks in your pocket. And instead, you were going to deface America for it. I don't want to get too nationalistic here, but, that seems like a shot to me. And there's no need for it.
When you're going through the checklist, there's the corruption, there's the lack of humanity, there's Blatter being on record, making racist remarks, making sexist remarks. We're talking about the ultimate supervillain here.
We have begun in America to hold our authority figures to a higher standard. We are far more critical of Roger Goodell as a commissioner than we probably have with any other commissioner in any other professional sport in America.
And
that's great.
Yeah, and that brings me back to the day that Blatter resigned, and the Twitter sphere was all up in arms, and the Goodell references were there, and they're easy for the taking.
They were.
And Goodell, for all his, he has many faults, but to have him and Sepp Blatter on the same level, that's being really, really...
That's awful.
No. There's no comparison right there.
There's absolutely no comparison. That's... Roger Goodell looks like a saint in comparison to all of this. And, my goodness, there are a lot of things you can complain about, but the things that we complain about concerning Roger Goodell and, any other commissioner who was unpopular, throughout the history of American sports, they have never done anything like this.
No, absolutely not.
They have never done anything like this. And, thank goodness we live in a country where we have more manageable problems. There's still lots of things that we have to work out. There are plenty of things that we still have to work out. But it's nice to know that our power is, strong enough to at least have movement within our own sports and then have also fantastic movement in international sports to the point where we will not stand for authority figures doing horrible things. So, I'm off my soapbox. I felt good.
Do we have the standing ovation?
Right. Do we need to hum some patriotic music while we're doing it?
USA, USA.
Right. Real quick, let's do one quick moment of not zen. The tight ends for the Cowboys had a very unusual drill where Jason Witten was lying on the back of another tight end who was kind of bent over at a 90-degree angle, stood up, bent over at a 90-degree angle. Jason Witten was lying on top of him and then catching passes.
I have not seen this video, but I'm trying to visualize this in my head right now.
Yeah, he's trying to catch passes while he's doing this because the whole thing is you're sprawling out, if you're going to the sideline trying to make a catch, and so that's the idea. So I asked tight ends coach Mike Pope about it, and he, of course, the character as he is, had some very poignant remarks.
They just come to me. I don't know.
Is it a middle of the night thing? You write that down on by the bedside table?
No, you watch. You're watching tape. You see things happen, and you just try to create that in a drill. We do a lot of things: getting held, pulled, yanked, hit with the side of the head with a pad. Things that are real, things that happen in the game. We don't jump over dummies. We don't run through ropes. We don't tie each other up and all that kind of stuff. We just simulate things that happen in the game. That's it.
The bright ray of light, clouds open up, and
well, we had something happen yesterday that we practiced before practice to Jason Witten, and the guy grabbed him from behind, hooked him over his arm. We practice this thing like the Karate Kid, wax on. You try to get your arm up through somebody's hand that's from behind you. The back judge can't see that because he's behind him. So you trap your arm, you'll never get your arm out this way. The way you get your arm out is wax on. It's like that, and it rolls right out. That's really complicated, isn't it? Huh? That's Coach Garrett's Princeton PhD work.
How this guy comes up with his drills, I will never know.
Yeah, between that and between the ice bucket.
Yes. He
infamous
came up with
ice bucket drill
challenge before anybody
that
else
went
did.
viral last year during training camp. Yeah, he's on a different playing field right there. He's on a different plane.
And you know what? It's good the Cowboys have him because that creativity, that levity. I think at the same time, I don't see anything wrong with it.
Well, the results are there.
Exactly. Some fantastic tight ends on that team. All right, that does it for Fox 4 Sports Watch. I believe that is episode number 5, and so to celebrate, we're going to have some burrito bowls. For Victor, I'm Edward. Enjoy.
On air, online, and totally mobile, this is Fox 4.